Hi. So we have a very straightforward single hexagram I Ching reading for this week. And it is a lovely and tender one. It's hexagram 8, belonging. Oh, I don't know how your weekend was, but for those of you following along, our hexagram for the weekend was hexagram 1, penetration, the pure yang field. And I have to say, it was uncanny in its accuracy for my weekend in totally unexpected ways. So belonging for the week, it's interesting because once we experience that yang field and that penetration, our sense of belonging is inherent. We understand that we are subject to invisible forces and always emerging from them with great intimacy. The ecology of erotic emergence. It is always, we are co-creating it and it is co-creating us. So hexagram 8, we discover ourselves in relationship with another. Remember who you are and become just that. That's how you belong. You can't be seen as you are if you don't show up as you are. And I work with quite a few women who have perfectionist tendencies. And recently I've seen a lot of men complaining about how they're a nice guy and they get friend zoned, or like they have some issues around this nice guyness. And I think the nice guy and the good girl are actually very similar in tone, that there's both of those ways of being in the world are very transactional and extractive and about getting approval from someone, getting some validation around being good or being nice or being non-threatening in some way. And that's such a denial of one's own power, that there tends to be incredible rage boiling just under the surface of that comes out eventually, because that nice guy, good girl position is already stepped onto the drama triangle. So you're already enacting a position of victimhood, rescuing, or perpetrator. And when you're trying to do some rescuing, and then you don't get validation for being so good for rescuing, then it's a very easy slide into perpetrator. And then when you realize you're perpetrating, then it's easy to slide it back into victimization. Like, why didn't this person do everything that I said? I was being good. And there's this lack of realization that that's actually just about control and oppression. It has nothing to do with compassion or kindness. It's just extractive. But when we allow ourselves to really be penetrated by that pure yang, and we can also embody hexagram 2, that pure yin that has come up, and feel that homing signal that is the pure yin that draws us down, and we can abide in the paradox of those two forces of penetration and homing, and trust that we are held in that lit field between those two poles. Then there's nothing to fear in showing up as we are. We understand that that's actually our responsibility to show up that way. And then we can be met because we're already arriving in intimacy. We're not expecting it from another, we're bringing it. And then we can know whether it's being received and responded to and amplified or not. We can feel resonance when we show up as we really are in our essence. And that is really sort of the energetic dynamics that are the undercurrent of hexagram 8. Softening after the rigorous service of adulting, hexagram 7, more intimate alliances form. When we find those we are resonant with, We hum in accord. When we listen, it's clear. When we know, we know. If we sit arms crossed in the prove it position, which I did a little video about that last week, that our pursuit of safety and asking someone to prove that it's safe to open before we open actually prevents that connection. If we trust ourselves enough to come in open, we know if that's being received. If we sit arms crossed in the prove it position, manipulating another into convincing us it's safe to open, we will miss the sense of belonging completely. Surrender invites trust. Self-abandonment rejects it. When you trust yourself first, both boundaries and belonging develop with ease. Belonging is not created, but discovered. We discover belonging not by pleasing others, but by being utterly ourselves. These are sometimes the same, but often not. We are defined in relationship. We emerge from relationship. Belonging is where we first sniff a hint that we are swimming in the ecology of erotic emergence. Belonging is erotic, even when the relationship is platonic. Belonging has the tone of green unions, entangled like vines, tendrils wrapping around innocence and eros, dry humping and teenage finger bangs, being seen by someone before you really see yourself, seeing yourself in their eyes, feeling your skin under their touch, finding your mouth on their mouth. Union is a mirror. Other beings show us our state of being. In belonging, we develop our capacity to be rather than seek love. We learn who we are and what we have to give. Generosity begets the pleasure of belonging. Greed and grabbing thwart belonging. We can't talk ourselves into belonging any more than we can use another as putty to fill a hole inside us. Begging and borrowing are not belonging. We yearn to belong before we even belong to ourselves. This union clarifies your inner disunion, the unmet parts of you, the parts you deny. No one else can unify them for you. You can't hide and then blame another for not seeing. You didn't mention you were playing that game. No one else can make you whole. You are already whole. In belonging, we are testing the external waters to see who we are and who we are not. By rubbing against others, we find out where our skin is. There's a lot of opportunity here to discern the difference between preference and desire. Passion is often a mix of both, sometimes a bewildered mix of both. We can passionately want what we want, but desire shows us what we need. Can you feel the difference in your body? What are you seeing in the mirror of another is so generously, what are you seeing in the mirror another is so generously and steadily holding for you? What are you still unwilling to see? Why? What needs to shift? What are you still grabbing instead of receiving? Are you sincerely entwining or performing relationship? Are you willing to be responsible for belonging? Can you show up for it wholehearted and fully embodied? That's a good question. Do you have it in you to facilitate a sense of belonging among seemingly disparate beings? Can you consciously contain multitudes? Can you let go of safety and rise in intimacy? Can you let go of safety and rise in intimacy? Because that ultimately brings more trust. And that trust brings safety, but the demand for safety up front leads to safety that is profoundly transactional and conditional and not based out of that true, grounded, abiding trust. Can you belong to the whole wide world? Do you understand that separation is fiction? If not, ask the oracle what's in your way. Most of the time, it's you. Oh, that's a good one for this week. I'll be sitting with that for a few days, and I'll see you on Friday for our weekend reading. Enjoy the belonging. It's so rich and intimate. And it's your birthright. You already have it, and you always have.